Chapter 17 begins with a miscellaneous but familiar law regarding sacrifices, that they must be without defect. Another warning follows about idolatry, but this time the focus is on the justice process which can lead to execution. After the report of it, there must follow a thorough investigation. The charge must be proved true on the basis of the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. One person cannot simply denounce another. The witnesses are then expected to begin the execution, so they ought to be sure of their evidence. All the people are then to join in, so that they are collectively responsible for purging the evil from their community. Justice is not removed from the people by a judiciary, a police force, prison guards, and an executioner. Everyone is involved. Continuing the theme of judicial process, guidance is given for more complicated cases from verse 8. It is not clear from the Hebrew whether these cases are specifically cult-related, and so concerning ritual purity, or civil matters as well. Whichever the case, 4 verses, 10 to 13, are spent emphasizing strict obedience to their legal decision. Failure to carry it out precisely is itself carrying the death penalty. Perhaps the seriousness of their decision is related to their proximity to God at the sanctuary and their deep knowledge of the law. Or it may be taking into account the possibility that they might inquire of the Lord using Urim and Thummim, the priestly decision stones, and therefore the verdict comes directly from God himself. There then is an interesting section where Moses predicts that the Israelites will ask for a king, which they will be permitted, although God will choose him. When it actually comes to this point, Samuel, who leads the nation as the last of the judges, demurs, but the Lord points out that it is not Samuel who has been rejected, but God, who is the real king. The monarchy, then, is a divine concession to the inevitable, but the problems which are also inevitable are likewise predicted here. The king must not grow too rich and be elevated above his fellow Israelites. He must not also take foreign wives who will lead him astray. Both of these things describe what happened with Solomon, and after him Israel was divided into 2 kingdoms. But one of the things Deuteronomy is known for, which makes it stand out from the other legal books of the Pentateuch, is the repeated social concern for the poor, widow, and alien. So it is interesting that the king's status should not be exalted. Indeed, the burden of leadership is given to him, as his personal copy of the law indicates. The theme of leadership is resumed in the famous passage in chapter 18 about another prophet. But before this, there are strong warnings against spiritism and the occult, which serve as something of a preamble. The Israelites are not to find guidance from the spirit world. This is for 2 reasons. The first is that it leads to vile practices, the worst of which is burning children. The second is that it is idolatrous. The Israelites have a covenant relationship with the only God, the only being who actually knows the future. His ways are revealed to Israel in the law, and they have their teachers in the priests. They are also assured that God will continue to provide them with a prophet to guide and lead them. Someone like Moses will be chosen by God to be the special link with heaven, who will have God's words put in his mouth. They will be testable. If they do not come true, the prophet should be executed. But woe betide anyone who does not obey the proven prophet. But what exactly does Moses mean? Does he mean there will always be a prophetic leader of Israel, or is he only speaking about a single future figure? As we know, the expectation which built up around this verse was buzzing around Jesus and even John the Baptist. Stephen, in his defense speech in Acts 7, refers to this prophecy. Some time after Moses, there were a guild of prophets which included Elijah and Elisha. Also, there were court prophets like Nathan. These would prophesy about more local, immediate matters, giving the judgment of the Lord on this or that. Later, from the 8th century onwards, there came the writing prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, and so on. These wrote in long poetic oracles, and instead of local immediate matters, prophesied about nations, great acts of redemption and judgment, future mysteries, and even the end of the world, the great day of the Lord. In one way or another, then, Israel was always to have a prophetic voice among them, at least until the great silence that fell at the end of the Old Testament. But Moses was not a prophet like the others, as the end of Deuteronomy makes clear. There was no one who knew God as he did, nor anyone who performed so many great signs and wonders. And as well as all this, Moses was the lawgiver. So it is impossible to take Moses literally when he says, "another like me," because he was in so many ways unique. And as David became a type of the ultimate king, so Moses was first of all a type of the ultimate prophet, who he was eventually to meet on the mountain of transfiguration.